It's like Simon says, Jacob says.
We're ready to go.
All right, good evening. Welcome to the December 1st, 2021 Urban Renewal Commission meeting. And I'd like to call it to order. And Mr. Wiley, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Rocky Smith. Here. Commissioner Frank O'Donnell. Here. Commissioner Sean Cross. Here. Commissioner Rachel Lyle Smith.
Here.
Commissioner Adam Morrow.
Here.
Commissioner Doug Neely.
Here.
And Chair Denise McGriff.
Here. It's amazing. It's December already, and we should be very proud. We have done a lot of work over the last few months, and I'm very happy and excited to be here tonight. And we have one request for citizen comment, and it's from Mr. Paul Edgar. Would you like to come on up, sir? Yes, it'll be easier to hear you.
Hold on just a second while we get your mic on.
Make sure it's on.
There we go.
Excuse me. I'm Paul Edgar, actually a former member of the Urban Renewal Commission long ago. I'm here, I'm an Oregon City resident, and I'm here primarily to talk about homelessness and a greater need and some urban renewal property that I believe might be better repurposed for homeless interdiction, interaction, and housing, shelter housing. What I'm talking about is a parcel right below Firestone in the Oregon City Shopping Center, right next to the Gladstone property and a bridge between Oregon City and Gladstone on Highway 99E. It's approximately 4 acres right there. And this property has an enormous potential to be repurposed and used for shelter housing at this one location. We could put outreach center there. Outreach building would be like a double-wide used older school, repurposed school district building. They have many of them for sale right out on Highway 213 next to Molalla for very little. And what we create there is a first-class shelters. I built one shelter just as my wife, a honeydew item, to build a shed for our property. I spent $4,000 to create an 8x12 walled, insulated, and wired building. That's beautiful. $4,000, and it could hold 2 people. I invite any of you to come down and take a look at it if you ever have an interest. But these buildings can be painted and textured and created into something that in a cluster, so that where they all kind of look at the center and where you can create multiple clusters. But we need a place in Oregon City, and we have an acceptable partner. I've talked to Clackamas County about would they participate, and I'm talking to the director over H3S, and everything was up on it. So all I'm getting at is here we have a piece of property owned by the Urban Renewal Commission. Why not use it for a higher and better purpose of creating shelters and interdiction places? So if the police find somebody, or there's somebody who's for whatever reason, we need to have a place where they can take them that's not the jail, where we could help them, and where we could have triage, where we could have social service outreach, job interdiction. And this is an opportunity to have a place like this, a first step place. These are people oftentimes holding on to shopping carts, and we have to break their grip on the shopping cart. And it's step by step. And we need that first step place in Oregon City, so we don't have people camping anywhere and everywhere. And this is just a place that I know we could have a community built where we could take and actually get a lot of the businesses and contractors and different entities to help us fabricate these things because they're basically modular, not difficult. You 3 pieces of plywood, 4x8 plywood, pressure treated as the floor. You create the floor. You put 2x4 walls up, a man door. In my case, I got a kit from Home Depot, and I started on it. But by the time I got through, paid $1,200 for the kit, and then I started adding on and making it first class. And so I know that you can make a first class place for $4,000. And what I'm just saying is, here we have property that's not been used for 20, 30 years, sitting there. And it's been separate from all of the cove development. And this is just a place and a time. And I really think it's a higher priority. And I think that Oregon City could show the way. And that's one of the appeals that I'm making to you and to this Urban Renewal Commission is this aggressive, let's show the way how we can do things in Oregon City that saves lives, turns lives around, makes a better world. And that's what I'm hoping you guys can think about. You can take a look at the map, see it. It's an opportunity for us. And now I'm going to go back and listen to the debate on tolling the 205 corridor. So I'll excuse myself. Thank you.
Paul, so you're talking about something very similar to the Veterans Village?
Yeah,
I mean, it's small little units.
Much better.
Yeah.
I think we can do a job much better, and we can do it within the boundaries of financial responsibility. Right now, it drives me insane that we're building HUD housing with public money and Metro grant dollars, and it's costing us $325,000 on average per dwelling unit. And I'm thinking, oh, wow. This is our tax money, our money, building this. And a lot of these people are still holding on shopping carts, and they're not responsible. And they haven't been moved to a point where they should be in a $325,000 dwelling unit. But yes, there are plenty that should be.
But we will take it under advisement.
What?
We will take it under advisement.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is that the only person that we had that wanted to speak, Jacob?
Yep.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, so we have 3 items under our business for this evening. The first one is the disposition of the commercial lease with Clackamas Landscape Supply Incorporated. And Mr. Graham is coming up to the table.
Good evening, Urban Renewal Commission members. I'm James Graham, Economic Development Manager. And as the chair said, one of our discussions tonight is the disposition of commercial lease with Clackamas Landscape Supply. The Urban Renewal Commission, as you know, is the landlord of the property 1795 Washington Street, and the current tenant is Clackamas Landscape Supply. Now, at its April 21st, 2021 meeting, the Urban Renewal Commission agreed to enter into a lease with the tenant starting retroactively from January 1, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. If it was determined that the landlord or the Urban Renewal Commission needed to retake the property, it would do so by issuing a 12-month written advance notice to the tenant no later than December 31st, 2021, thereby giving the tenant ample time to vacate the property, specifically 12 months. Tonight, staff recommends that we renew the lease with Clackamas Landscape Supply and enter into an agreement whereby the lease a new lease would start on January 1st, 2023. And if the commission needed the property at that time, it would send a notice to vacate on December 31st, 2023. giving the landlord, giving the tenant another 12 months, ending in 12/31/24. So, in addition, we're also stating that in that we don't know what the inflation rate will be in the future. We're recommending that whatever the inflation rate is at the time that this lease is renewed, or we have a new lease, that the rent increases by that amount. Are there any questions?
So effectively, you have the remainder of the. So effectively, you have the remainder of the existing lease, which is a 1-year period, and you're asking to tack 2 more years on to that to make it essentially a 3-year agreement.
Correct. And then if you wanted to vacate, if you needed the property, then you would intercede by December, December 31st, 2023.
Commissioner Neely?
Just to clarify, the agents, or I guess it would be us, could request at any time within the next year for the person to vacate within a year. That is, you're talking about the maximum time that would happen.
Correct. We also have Steve Pearson here with us. I don't know if he wants to make a statement or not.
Did you want to say anything, Mr. Pearson?
Sure.
Okay, please do.
Yeah. Okay, can you hear me all right?
Yes,
Okay. Well, I just wanted to say,
for the record, because Mr. Y is going to ask name and,
okay, my name is Steve Pearson. I'm the president and owner of Clackamas Landscape Supply. And we've been a tenant on the property for 24 years. This next season will be our 25th season. And we've always had the 12-month out for the city of Oregon City in case they needed the property for any use. The Amtrak station was in need, so we adjusted our property line at that time. But I've been very grateful to have been part of the Oregon City community for almost 25 years, and never thought I would have been there as long as we have. But I think it's been beneficial to the city and myself and my employees. So I want to say thank you for that. I can guarantee I don't plan on being there another 25 years, but I wouldn't mind being there another few years if it works out that the city doesn't need the property for any other use. The term is 3 years, but at any point, we could be given 12 months notice to vacate, and then the clock would start from that point forward. So it's just putting the end date potentially further out, but there's still a lot of flexibility on the city's side. So, and I don't know if anybody had any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Sure.
you have a question for Mr. Pearson?
Yes, I do. Have you explored any alternative locations during the past year?
No, I really haven't. I'm not sure how much longer I want to be running a business. 25 years is a long time. I ran a business prior to that for 5 years at a different location. I've been in the industry a long time, been doing the same thing. I think if I were to wind that down, I would probably look at finding something else to do or partnering up with somebody else and doing something different.
Well, I understand the 12-month notice thing, but I'm more comfortable if this commission wants to extend it another year, the remainder of this lease plus 1 more year, I'd be more comfortable with that. But I'm just one of many up here. I say that because I view the total picture of things that face this urban renewal group. There are things like there's someone that probably wants to borrow close to $40 million of urban renewal funding. And if that project there's no funds for anything else, probably for a long time, just to service that debt. And if we lock this in, I want to have the mobility to propose other projects. And this has nothing to do with you. This is us. This is the leadership in this community. We seem to be cast along where people come to us with projects. I want us to say, this is what we want. That piece of property you occupy may be one of those things. So I just want to give us the maximum flexibility, whether it be that or the Cove or any other properties, to be able to move unrestricted. That's my thoughts on it. And that's, as I say, I'm only one of many commissioners up here.
Sure.
Are there any other questions? Doug?
It's not a question, but I appreciate your business being there. I've gone there at least 3 times and plan to come there again in the next year. So I'm really glad you established yourself there.
Yeah, thank you.
Are there any other questions, Rocky?
No questions, but I'm shocked that you've been there 24 years. I was thinking, oh my gosh, it's been that long.
Yeah.
Have been great tenants, and I do agree to some degree with Commissioner O'Donnell, but I also believe that this creates a situation where we still have the opportunity to, that year notice to do something. I think, in the future, we're going to get more. I hope as we go into the future that the Urban Renewal Commission and the city looks at its properties and is really careful about how long-term of these leases we continue, because we're getting to a point right now where projects are starting to happen in this city. And so we do want that flexibility. We want to be able to do good with those properties in the future and what our vision is as a city. But I'm reluctant to think that that's going to happen in 3 years. I would love it to happen in 3 years, but this gives us a pretty good flexibility of, if it does happen, a year, or so to work on that. I think this is okay in my mind, but I do agree with your point, and I think that's something that we as an Urban Renewal Commission of the city are going to really have to start thinking about in the next decade of our properties, how we're really utilizing them, because the city is going to change a lot in the next 5 or 10 years, and we need to be ready to move with it as soon as it starts. So I feel pretty comfortable with this as it is right now.
Are we ready to entertain a motion, or is there more discussion?
I'd like to ask some questions.
Okay.
So Mr. Graham, this is more for Mr. Graham and Mr. Conkle, I think. So I'm trying to understand the actual commercial leases, and I just want to make sure I'm understanding. We're essentially writing a completely new lease that's going to start at a future date versus extending and modifying our existing one, which is set to expire at the end of December 31st, 2022. Is that correct?
That's correct. And also keep in mind that whenever urban renewal or any entity develops property, it takes a long time. And so therefore, we might as well secure an income on a property, but while we're waiting for the ideas to go through the process. And so any idea that probably will come to the urban renewal will probably take a couple of years at least before they even think about breaking ground. So you have to consider all the things that happen. There's no property turns on the dime. No property starts in a turnkey situation.
I have another question. If this gentleman decides at some future point within the terms of these leases that he's going to pursue another location and he sells this to another person, is this an assignable right to that buyer?
No, this is not assignable.
So we would have no, next buyer of his property would have no expectation of being able to remain there.
Buyer of the business.
Of his business.
Yeah, not the property.
Well, that's a,
If the gentleman sold his business to another person and within the terms of these leases you're talking about tonight, would the new buyer, would he have the same rights of occupancy of that property as this current lease? Basically, is he assuming the lease that this gentleman would enter into?
well, first of all, this is a hypothetical. But if Mr. Stevenson sold his property, then
Sold his business.
sold his business, he would have to conform, that individual would have to conform to the existing lease. And of course, any changes thereof, they would be expected to come before the commission, because if someone purchased his business, most likely they would want something a little longer in terms of a lease arrangement and something a little less flexible. So chances are they will come to the commission anyway.
Well, the way I understood that answer is you're saying that if someone were to buy his business and want to remain on that property,
If someone
they would have, you're saying they have to conform to the same use as he has, but do they automatically inherit the same lease, same rights?
they would have to inherit the same lease.
Okay. What I wanted to know.
Anything else? I entertain a motion, please. Don't all speak at once.
I'll move to approve the lease as brought to us this evening for Clackamas Landscape Supply.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner Neely, that we approve the commercial lease with Clackamas Landscape Supply. We're ready for the vote?
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell,
No.
Commissioner Sean Cross,
Yes.
Commissioner Rachel Lyle Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Adam Marl,
Aye.
Commissioner Doug Neely.
Aye.
Could you repeat that again?
Aye.
And Chair Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
All right, next on the agenda are the minutes of June 16th, 2021 and October 6th, 2021. Can we take those together? Has everybody reviewed them and are they okay?
I move to accept both sets of minutes.
All right, it's been
Second.
moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Smith, moved by Commissioner Neely to approve the minutes of June 16th, 2021 and October 6th, 2021. Let's call the roll.
Commissioner Rocky Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Sean Cross.
Yes.
Commissioner Rachel Lyle Smith.
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Aye.
Commissioner Doug Neely.
Aye.
And Chair Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Mr. Conkle, do we have any communications, or Mr. Graham?
Yes, I think one communication would be that we appreciate the effort and the work that's gone into the additional meetings to update the urban renewal plan. And I think we're to a point now where we would like to re-engage with Andy Parks, who was responsible for the financial components of the work that we had been previously doing to update the urban renewal plan. And we requested that he provide us a draft scope to update the Urban Renewal Agency financial forecast through expenditure of maximum indebtedness to include actual fiscal year 2022 real market and assessed values under two scenarios, including a no debt issued, essentially a pay-as-you-go financing, and assessing the growth and whatnot, and then updating the project list associated with that, and then a use of debt to finance projects, so growth and assessed value within the district to increase the historical growth ratios. Also then to be able to create that model that would then be available for us to utilize as well moving forward as staff. And then just work to make sure that we have that information presented and explained to the commission for their consideration as we continue to come up with the final document for the updated urban renewal plan. We want to bring this forward tonight just as an FYI, answer any questions, see if there are any concerns with it. It's a do not exceed contract of $8,000 in order to complete that work.
I guess my question would be, in updating it, will Mr. Parks be able to include all the possible options? Obviously, I've talked to you before about the fact that that we should sell some bonds and then use the proceeds from the bonds to pay for things, and then use the proceeds from the other part to pay down the debt. So would that be something that would be included?
Well, one of the options is to use debt to finance the project. So that would be one scenario,
Okay,
yes, that you
perfect.
would be looking at.
Does anybody have any other questions about this or concerns?
My question is this part of the one aspect of the contract previously awarded that went unfulfilled within a specific time period?
It was. We did not get to this component when we stopped work back, I think it was in early August. Yeah. But at that point, I think that we had expended all funds at that point. Yes.
Fell within that rule that all funds had to be expended within a 1 year period or something like that?
Correct. Yeah. So this would be a new expenditure in order to complete this work.
So this is just another step in the process that we started talking about at the end of our vision session, okay?
Yeah, so we have not updated the urban renewal plan financials
Yes.
in,
20-some years.
I'm not sure if it was quite that much, but it was 2008, maybe, roughly in that time frame. So none of the project lists have been updated, none of the actual financials, none of the real where we're at from an assessed value standpoint, market value standpoint. So this would be that work to update this plan so that when we get to a point to make a decision on adopting a new urban renewal plan, the numbers associated with that from a financial standpoint are accurate relative to the existing conditions today.
So can you?
Go right ahead.
Can you outline what the process is, or, going forward? What's after that? Because it sounds like a significant update to the urban renewal plan is, I would assume, does this have a vote of the people? Is this something we're taking out to a larger vote, or is this?
Well, I think that's going to be one of the steps, right? That's one of the things that the commission is going to need to provide direction on, right? We have a charter requirement related to taking on debt within the district. And so one of the conversations that the Urban Renewal Commission is going to have is, what are we sending to the voters? Are we sending the approval to take on the maximum indebtedness allowed in the plan? Are we taking the plan for approval with approval to take on debt? Are we saying approve us for half of the debt? I mean, those are conversations that we have to have, but I don't think this is updating the financials. It's not a plan amendment. We're not expanding the boundary or anything like that. So this is strictly updating the financials of the existing real conditions as they exist in 2022, to update the numbers. We're not changing the maximum indebtedness. We're working within what the plan says, just providing fresh information.
You're saying that all this work that we're doing to kind of update our goals and vision and, the areas we've been talking about, livability and, stuff like that, recreation, tourism, that along with the financials does not require we're not required to take these refresh of the plan or these elements that we've been working on. We're not required to take that to a vote.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
That's true.
Okay, so I just want to be clear that we're not heading down a path that has a dead end if we decide, we can clearly proceed with everything you're doing and the $8,000 and do a refresh, and we're still all within the legalities of updating, I'm calling kind of giving it a refresh of our current plan.
Correct.
What about updating the project list?
I think that's part of the process.
It's part of the process. I don't think that requires a vote of the people.
Okay.
You're not expanding the boundary, anything associated with a major plan amendment.
Okay. Are there any further questions? Mr. Smith?
Well, just saying this because I don't want the illusion that we all support that idea. I'm concerned with that idea because I voted no on every urban renewal budget so far in the last couple of years, and I voted no on every city budget because I don't want to spend any urban renewal money until we address that question or that dictate that the voters gave us. So I wouldn't be able to support this because we may feel and we may have a legal opinion that it's okay and that we can. I want that to come from the voters that said we can't. And I don't think we're there yet. And I think I'm reluctant to support any spending until we address that, which I think we will be addressing in those conversations that we, in our next meeting. I'd almost rather have those conversations and see how we're going to really address that before we move forward in spending money. I think we got to be careful with that because we may have a different perception than other citizens in this town. And we don't want to derail an opportunity that we have in trying to move forward. I think it might give us a better opportunity to build a relationship with the community and the voters to fix this and to address the issues that the voters told us about urban renewal and move forward so that we have a project eventually, hopefully soon, that we all support. That's what I'd like. And so I think we have to be very careful about how we do that. So I'll be very cautious about it, and that's my worry.
Can you hang on just, does anybody else, before I come back around to Commissioner O'Donnell, does anybody else have any comments they want to make? Right ahead.
I'll just simply say that I'll join Commissioner Rocky Smith in that opinion. I feel the same way. I think this is one of those things where challenge that we're always faced with is expenditures of dollars to service debt or not. And this is one of those that I would wait until things were clear. So I'll join you, your opinion. Thanks.
So what's your pleasure, commissioners? Do we have a motion one way or the other?
So is it that we cannot update the project list without updating the financials? Because if the discussion is we need to take like a revised urban renewal vision and plan and all to the folks for a vote.
Well, that's the discussion. We haven't decided that's how we're going to do it yet.
Right. So my question is, can we refresh the project list without doing the financial piece?
That would be challenging.
Okay.
Because you have to have financial models with each project. And of course, a project has to be successful and repay the debt. So that would be challenging. My understanding that this is a information session about this proposal. I don't think having a vote on it.
I'm just trying to, I think there just needs to be an understanding. That's the reason you're bringing this to us or letting us know that that's the next step in the process so that we'll have all of the pieces lined up. And you can't really present a new project list and a vision and the goals and a plan to the voters if that's the direction we decide to go without doing this next. Is this the final piece before we make that decision?
Probably not, but I can't imagine somebody, let's say we say XYZ property and we think that this is what the project should be. The first question we're going to get asked is, well, how much do we think that's going to cost? And we're going to go, we don't know because we don't have an updated project numbers. But to me, it's kind of a cyclical self-defeating prophecy. We can update the project list all we want, but what is it really going to mean without having at least some more realistic numbers? The numbers we have in there now, they're not realistic at all. I mean, they're basically worthless, Yeah. At that point in time, they were valuable. They are not at this point in time.
Yeah, I think that's one of the challenges that when you look at the existing urban renewal plan, there are assumptions on project costs that are plugged in at a certain time in the lifetime of the district. And, so trying to replicate or, add just even construction standard cost increases over the last 12, you're going to be off by we're off by a significant magnitude right now. I would expect half of that list probably isn't affordable. If you were to apply construction inflation costs over the last 13 years to that list.
How about the last 6 months?
Well, that's what I mean. It's just, it hasn't been updated. And then when you look at the model in there as to paying back any debt that's taken, it's based on certain projects coming in at a certain value at a certain time within that calendar, within those years. So I think it'd be really, really difficult to do that without accurate financial numbers to know where we're looking at. And even then it's going to be tough, right? When you're looking out 20 years, we've got the luxury of looking back now and we'll see how off we were in some of those assumptions, but it would be difficult, I think.
So let me ask this question. So you're giving this to us for information. So are you asking us for approval of this? I mean, that's what I took it to mean, but maybe I'm reading too much into this.
Well, I think this gets back to, I know that there are concerns about spending money in the district, or what should we be doing next? So I'm just trying to communicate that we think that this is the next step. It's within, it's actually within both of our signing authorities to enter into this contract for the Urban Renewal Agency on their behalf. We think it's the right next step, but if the commission's not comfortable, it doesn't want to go there yet, then we won't do that.
Well, let me just take a poll then, Mr. Neely, and then I'll do that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess my question is, this doesn't commit us to anything until we actually come up with projects and want to find out what's the value. Is that true?
We would probably get started on some of the changes in this. If the commission wants to move forward, we would get started updating assessed value, updating real market value, start looking at some assumptions for what we can expect over the next 20 years when we look at this financial model. But yeah, I mean, there's other important information that we're going to need in order to complete the work.
Oh, Commissioner Morrow, what's your thoughts?
I mean, I don't have any problems moving forward with this. I think
you're okay.
Yes, I think that even though I was with Commissioner Smith and Commissioner O'Donnell and opposing the budgets, I think that in order to present the voters with something that we want them to be able to approve, we need to have this valuable information.
Commissioner Neely?
I agree.
Commissioner Cross?
I think we definitely need numbers updated. 14-year-old data is not very useful. I've used Mr. Parks's models before. I've been updating them for like 9 years. So I know once you get one, you'll be able to update it, but the new project list and everything, and you can adjust to the assumptions and stuff. But I think the model you have now probably isn't very useful if you've had all these assumptions of all these projects getting done, adding to the AV base that then didn't happen. You don't know when the district will be able to close. I mean, we know what it was 14 years ago in 2007, but not now. So I definitely need to update the numbers.
I don't know how you feel, Mr. O'Donnell. Commissioner Smith?
Yeah, I'm fine. This was an informational item.
And Commissioner Smith?
I think I've already stated.
Okay, so we have 4 yeses move forward, and did I count right?
I mean, if we're going to make it that way, let's make it on the record.
Well, okay, I'm fine with it.
Because if we're going to tally votes,
Do it.
Do we want, are you requesting a motion then?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's make a motion then.
I move that we enter into a contract with Andy Parks to do the model.
Is there a second? Second. So moved by Commissioner Cross, seconded by Commissioner Neely. Let's have the vote one more time.
Commissioner Rocky Smith?
No.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell?
No.
Commissioner Sean Cross?
Yes.
Commissioner Rachel Lyle Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Adam Marl?
Aye.
Commissioner Doug Neely?
Yes.
And Chair Denise McGriff?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. Do we have any other business?
Not for me, no thank you.
Graham? Okay. Mr. Zook doesn't have any business for us? Okay. All right. So hearing no further business, we will adjourn this meeting. And we will reconvene at 7 o'clock for the regular city commission meeting. Thank you all.